Hello, everyone. My name is Riley Newport. I'm the Communications Director with the Oregon Council on Developmental Disabilities. I'm excited to welcome you to today's presentation, Explore Your Path, with Nick Casa and Aniko Adani. Do you two want to introduce yourself?
Hi guys, I'm Nicholas Casa. I'm so excited to be here. I'm a consultant for the Oregon Council on Developmental Disabilities.
Hi everyone, my name is Aniko and I will be the graphic recorder for today. So I'm going to be doodling and just capturing the conversation on the screen for you. So we use graphic recording just to help visual thinkers and people get engaged in the conversation and to capture everyone's perspective. So that's going to be my role. So you won't hear from me too much, but you'll get to see my doodles. And so feel free to do this at home, whatever helps you learn with us.
Awesome, thank you. And Aniko is going to join us at the end as we talk about next steps. And she might be able to answer some questions, and we'll provide you some resources so you can make your own trajectory. So as you see us move forward, Aniko's already drawn a few of the things here, but we're going to start off with talking about today's agenda. Nick, you want to kick us off? What are we going to talk about today?
First thing we're going to talk about is what is a trajectory? So a trajectory is a tool that you can use in your life to basically do what I call building a roadmap to what it is you want and what it is you don't want and what it is you want to avoid. So that is what a trajectory is. Then we're going to talk about how can a trajectory help me in the current context of COVID-19. And then at the end of the last bit of our conversation today, we'll be talking about what you can do next with your trajectory and how you can use your trajectory next in this context of COVID.
So as we mentioned earlier, please, this is a recording. So if you want to pause, you can pause. You can get a piece of paper or some pens. If you're graphic and like to draw, or maybe you're supporting a family member or someone that you support to do this, maybe you get something out and write along, or you could, however that works, however you think. We find graphic facilitation is really helpful for this conversation, and it's engaging to watch. I'm going to be facilitating today by asking Nick a few questions. He's offered to share his own trajectory or a few examples from it. So just follow along. Maybe it brings up some things that you'd like yourself. And then at the end, we'll talk about what you can do with that trajectory and where you can learn more. So thanks again for joining us. So the first part of the trajectory, Nick, you mentioned this, is talking about what we want. So what do you want during this time of uncertainty related to COVID-19?
During this time, the big thing I want to be able to stay informed. So I want to know what's going on, not only worldwide, but even in my own community, what's going on with COVID, how can we stay safe? How can we keep our families safe? So I want to stay informed and know how to best take care of myself. The other thing is I want my family and myself to be able to stay healthy, and that means mentally and physically. So I want to be able to, if I need certain medications, I want to be able to have access to my medication. I use a power wheelchair to get around on a daily basis, and so I need my chair to constantly be working on a daily basis. So what that means is if it breaks down, I want to make sure I can get to the technicians that can fix it. Another thing I would want is I want to be able to stay in contact with my family and my friends that I don't necessarily live with. So one thing that's really important right now is staying in contact. And it's called socially distancing. I like to call it physically distancing. and still finding ways to communicate with people that we love, family and friends, without physically being near them.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. As people are at home, maybe a few of these things are what you want, but then we also, an important part of thinking about building a vision during a time while you plan is the opposite. What do you want to avoid? What do you not want? So what are a few of those things, Nick?
So we go back to the very top of what I want, but in reverse order. So the one thing I want to avoid is being uninformed. So I want to know what's going on, and I want to continue to know what's going on. So I want to be able to stay informed, and I don't want to be uninformed. I want to be able to, get my wheelchair repaired when it needs those repairs. I want to be able to, I want my family and myself to be able to stay healthy and continue to get the medications we need to do so. And, a big one of what I don't want is, I don't, I'm lucky enough right now to continue to still be working during this time. And, I still have bills I need to pay during this pandemic. So I want to be able to still make money to pay my bills. And so right now I'm going to ask the question of you at home. What is it during this time of COVID that you would want to avoid if you were to build a trajectory? What is it that you wouldn't want to see happen on your trajectory?
So yeah, as Nick mentioned, feel free to fill this out along as we move along. We're going to now go to the past. So a lot of what we do now is informed from what happened in our past experience. So Nick, would you share with us a past experience that you've had that's informed what you're doing today?
I'd be happy to. So, as we all know, this pandemic that we're all going through right now, this global pandemic, nothing like it has ever happened before. And so it's really hard to build a trajectory and build a past experience based around it. But when I think of a past experience of my own where I was uncertain of what the end result was gonna be was when I had my ankle fused. I was doing a PE class. It was a sophomore in high school, and I needed something. I needed something to do that was different than your average tossing a ball around. So I was like, I'd like to try. Told my physical therapist that I'd like to try using a walker, and so she brought the walker over. For about 30 to 45 minutes, I walked around the school. After that time, got back into my chair and realized that my ankle is really hurting. I didn't know why, but I just chalked it up to, well, I did something I haven't done in several years, so that's the reason why. This was during the day before winter break was supposed to start, so I went home and several days went by and the pain got worse and worse. So I scheduled an appointment with a doctor up in Portland. He took an x-ray and said, I can't really see anything on the x-ray, but he's like, you're in a lot of pain, so what I can suggest is we fuse your ankle, do an ankle fusion. He's like, I can tell you now, I don't know what the end result will be. I don't know if this will help your pain or anything like that, but we can give it a try. And at that point, I was in so much pain that I just said, sure, let's do it. Did the surgery, and the pain has gone away, and now I just have pain when my ankle is quickly like jostled around and stuff like that. But for the most every day, the pain is gone. So, so yeah. And now, before we move on to this next part, you at home, you can think of a time, a past experience where you were unsure of what the end result of something was going to look like. And if you're currently working on a trajectory, go ahead and pause the video or do whatever you can and write that in. And if not, we'll continue on.
Great. Thanks for sharing. So that past experience that you offered, how is that informing what's happening now? And what are you doing now to help achieve the vision of what you want?
So the reason I brought up that story in my past experience was, like I mentioned, I wasn't sure what the end result was going to be. I wasn't sure what this surgery was going to do for me. And it kind of brings us in today because, we're not sure of how things are going to look and how things are going to work once this pandemic is over. What we do know is that routines in our day-to-day life will look different. And as far as keeping a vision of what I want during this time and what I'm doing now is one thing I wanted to do was I wanted to stay informed. So staying informed is very easy at this point with what we have access to, and we have access to technology at our fingertips basically. So I'm using social media as a big piece of staying informed, using Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and stuff like that to stay informed with my family, friends, and also stay informed with up-to-date news outlets. Another thing I'm doing to stay emotionally and physically fit or physically healthy, there for any matter, is I'm working out more, and I'm really taking time to be thankful for the opportunities that I've been given and the time that I've been given with family. So yeah, and so now would be the time to ask you all at home, now in the context of COVID-19, what is happening now that is happening to you in this context of pandemic? Excuse me.
So I want to ask you a question while we're still here looking at what's happening now. I know that staying informed and connecting with people is a part of what you want as we think about what you want. But another part of this is what happens if you get off track? What happens if you do get sick and you end up in the hospital? Or what happens if you lose your job? How can people plan for when they get off track?
So as we mentioned earlier in a slide of what to avoid, we have to remember that we can always write it down, what to avoid, and write down some ideas of what to avoid, but we're always going to hit that wall or get off track into that area of what do we want to avoid. So so what I've always remembered is that the important thing of getting off track, if you will, is not what to do.
So another part of this conversation about what you're doing right now is what to do if you get off track. What's your advice for people?
That's a good question, Riley. And as I mentioned, as we talked about previously in a previous slide of what to avoid, you know, while we've written down some suggestions and ideas of what to avoid during this time, we have to remember that we will always come across something that kind of gets us off track, and we'll always kind of hit that point where for that time period we're off track. So what's important to remember is that it's not that we have to figure out how it's not that we have to figure out that, okay, we're off track, what do we do? What's important is that we're like, okay, we're off track. How do we get back on track so that we can finish out our trajectory and fulfill our goal and get to that big picture?
And we mentioned often the planning. You often plan when you want things to change or you want them to really stay the same. And this is a time where this trajectory might change over time, and you could set a long-term plan or a short-term plan, but just having an idea of what you want to avoid, and then as time changes, you might adjust this. So just being able to keep on track and have a vision for what you want. So when things get off track, maybe orient yourself back. So.
Yes, and as Riley mentioned, trajectories can be used for long-term goals, short-term goals. It doesn't even have to be for COVID. Trajectories can be basically used for anything.
And Nico just zoomed us out so we can see the big picture. We can see how the past experiences inform what you're doing, Nick, in your own life, and still bringing you towards that vision of what you want and what you want to avoid. Anything else you'd like to share with people as they're at home about the big picture?
Looking at this big picture that we wrote out here and showing you guys on the screen, I'm pretty comfortable with what I've written out for what I want my life to look like during this time of uncertainty and this time of pandemic. But now the question goes back to you guys at home. For those of you that are at home writing this out with us, what does your big picture look like? And are you happy with what has come out?
So now we're going to go on to what's next. Hopefully, if this was, this process, maybe you made your own trajectory at home. And I'd like to bring a Nico back in and ask the two of you, Nick and Nico, what are the next steps? What can people do with their trajectory?
Can we pause for just like a second? I don't know what.
So, Nico and Nick, as we talk about next steps, what would you like to share with people at home about what they could do with their trajectory?
Your guys' trajectory, for those of you that have written one out during this time that we've been talking about it, it's a perfect time for you to share with your family, share with your friends, and share with the people that you care about and care about you, and maybe you can help them build their own trajectories. What else can they do with them, Nico?
Yeah, so I think that, this is something that here we're thinking through like COVID-19 and what are these situations, but I think we can use this with any situation that I'm trying to get my head wrapped around, or really think about what do I want to do next, and bring people into the conversation. So you could use pictures, you could use words, really whatever is going to be easiest, and you can share it with whoever you want to share talking about your life with. I think there's really no wrong way to do that. So definitely, I think it's fun to explore this, and it could be really helpful to get some of that uncertainty and like, what do we want, what do we not want to do, and how to move forward.
I'm really excited about this team that we have here. And today we were just getting started with this idea. This is new for us, doing a trajectory with a graphic recorder. And Anika's a great illustrator, but you don't have to be that to do this. You could do this at home. And we're gonna do future presentations together as a team where we might talk more specifically about getting some supports that you need in your life to help achieve what you want now and in the future. So this is just the first. We have more to come. Anything else you'd like to share, either of you, about what to expect next for people?
I just want to say, so we thank you for joining us today, but I also want to let you know that if you guys have any questions or you need some more information, please visit www.ocdd.org and hit the tab that says Planning with Nick, and I can answer any questions you might have, or you can go back and rewatch this video if that's helpful. Thank you.
We'll have trajectories there, and Nick will have some more in-depth information that he'll offer in his own life, and you can connect with Nick or the rest of our team. And we appreciate you joining us, and stay tuned for what comes next. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.